Jason Carter had never shown up at his office so early in his life. Usually, his driver would pull up just before 8, and polished shoes would step out onto the marble floor as glass doors slid open automatically. But that morning was different. For some reason he couldn't explain, Jason woke before sunrise with a restless feeling in his chest. He dressed himself, skipped breakfast, and drove alone through quiet streets still cloaked in fog and the soft glow of fading street lamps. He parked in a spot usually reserved for delivery vans outside Sterling Industries, a towering glass and steel monument to power and precision. The building was silent, still untouched by the day's usual chaos of phones ringing, meetings starting, and footsteps echoing through the halls. Only Frank, the security guard, was there, nursing a weak cup of coffee at the front desk, eyes barely open. As Jason stepped into the grand lobby, something caught his eye, a small figure low to the ground near the stairwell. He slowed his pace, his dress shoes clicking faintly on the polished floor. It was a little girl, maybe 6 years old. Her light brown hair was tied back in a crooked braid, strands falling over her face as she worked silently, carefully. Her arms were thin, her hands red from water and rough tile. Frank sighed and said, "That's Hannah. Her mom's the night cleaner here. She slipped into a coma last week, ICU. Hannah showed up 2 days ago, said she'd do her mom's job until she got better." "She's 6, Jason said softly. "Yeah," Frank nodded. "But she acts like she's 60. Jason watched Hannah dip the rag into a small bucket, wring it out with fingers too small and weak for the task, then moved deliberately to the next tile. She never looked up or spoke. Something inside Jason snapped. This wasn't just wrong, it was unacceptable. Without a word, he turned and headed for the supply closet. "Mr. Carter? Everything okay?" Frank called after him, confused. Jason didn't answer. "Where do you keep the janitor uniforms?" he asked. "Down the hall, room 3C, Frank replied. Jason didn't hesitate. He changed into a gray jumpsuit, rough and stiff against his skin, swapped his leather shoes for worn sneakers, and stared at his reflection. Gone was the billionaire CEO. Standing there was a janitor, quiet, invisible. Back in the lobby, Hannah was still scrubbing near the windows, small and fragile in the vast space. Jason crouched beside her. She glanced up, eyes wide, surprised but not afraid. "Hi," he said softly. "Mind if I help?" They worked in silence. Jason's knees ached, his back stiffened, but he didn't stop. Not to impress her, but because leaving wasn't an option anymore. After a while, Hannah said, "You should be proud of it." Jason looked at the floor he'd just cleaned. "You do a good job." She looked down. "It's the only thing I can do now." Her words hung in the air, heavy as stone. That it wasn't her burden to carry, but she didn't ask for comfort. She was doing what needed to be done. He asked if she ever got help. She shook her head. "Mom says people don't notice you unless you're in the way." Jason swallowed hard. He'd walked past hundreds in that building without really seeing them. He asked about school. This child shouldn't be on that cold floor. She belonged in classrooms, parks, in a world where someone else carried the weight. Days passed. Jason's visits became routine, changing in the supply closet, joining Hannah in cleaning. She no longer seemed surprised to see him. One morning, she asked his name. He said Jay, a piece of himself he hadn't used in years. She smiled a little and said she thought he was okay. Jason promised to try not to mess it up. They talked little, but the silence grew comfortable. Jason learned she liked drawing, rainy days, humming when nervous. He prepared his home, ordering rugs, soft lights, a bed small enough for her, and art supplies. Hannah didn't ask questions. To her, Jason was just Jay, the janitor. One morning, after cleaning, Hannah asked, "Why do you come here?" Jason paused. "Because it's the only part of the day that makes sense." "You mean cleaning floors?" "No, being with you." Her face softened, a quiet peace settling in her shoulders, as if waiting for someone to say that and truly mean it. That night, Jason read guardianship papers filled with legal jargon he'd never dealt with outside business. But this wasn't a deal to close, it was a life to open. His own. Then came the call that changed everything. Rachel Brooks, Hannah's mother, had awakened. Not fully, but conscious. Jason drove to the hospital, heart pounding, unsure of what to expect. In the ICU, Rachel lay fragile, surrounded by machines. Jason introduced himself softly. "Hi, I've been helping Hannah. Her eyes blinked slowly, tears forming. She scribbled on a notebook. Is she okay? Jason smiled through his own tears. She's more than okay. She's strong and brave. She's been coming here every day. Rachel wrote again. Who are you? Jason hesitated, then said, someone who saw her. They sat in silence, connected by pain and hope. Rachel whispered, thank you. Jason left with a strange ache, half pain, half joy. Hannah's fragile world was gaining solid ground. Back at the office, Jason's life shifted. Rumors spread of the CEO who arrived before dawn, cleaned floors with a little girl. But it wasn't show, it was change. Departments softened, respect grew. Anonymous thank you notes appeared for night staff. One morning, Jason gave Hannah a small box. Inside, a name tag reading Hannah Brooks, honorary staff member. Confused, she whispered, can I still come sometimes? Anytime, Jason said. Rachel was discharged months later. Their old apartment had been cleared by the system. No rent, no income, no mercy. Jason opened his home, a warm, safe haven with 2 bedrooms prepared just for them. Rachel was hesitant, pride still intact, but Hannah took her hand. Please, I want us to be safe. They moved in. Life grew slowly beautiful. Rachel gained strength, helped Hannah with homework, cooked simple meals. Hannah laughed, drew, made friends. Jason found himself home on time, asking about school before business news. He wanted less from the world and more from moments. One evening, Hannah asked, can I call you family? Jason smiled. Yes, of course. No ceremony, no papers, just a bond forged in quiet love. Jason filed for legal guardianship, not to take Hannah from Rachel. Guardianship was approved without delay. They celebrated simply, milkshakes, fries, laughter in a diner where people remembered your name. Jason started Morning Hands, a company program inspired by Hannah, supporting children and families in crisis, silent but impactful. One autumn morning, Hannah asked Jason to walk her to school. She said, do you remember the first day when I was cleaning and you didn't tell me who you really were? He nodded. I think I knew, she said. Not at first, but I felt it. You weren't really there to clean. Jason smiled gently. I didn't know why either. I just knew I had to stay. She hugged him, not the quick kind, but the kind that grounds you. Jason watched her disappear inside, feeling a rare peace. A life reshaped not by force, but by grace. The gray jumpsuit still hung in his closet, never worn again. But never forgotten, not a symbol of the past, but a reminder of who he'd become. Because sometimes the most powerful beginnings come dressed in the simplest cloth. Because sometimes love doesn't shout, it quietly shows up and stays. In the end, Jason didn't just save a little girl. She saved him too.